Hi everyone. So today we will learn about vectors. Now, what is a vector? A vector is a quantity that has both magnitude as well as direction. When we say it has a magnitude as well as direction, what does it mean? For example, if I say my house is 50 kilometers from the market, I only mention the distance. I said my house is 50 kilometers from the market. That means I only mention the magnitude. Now, if I again say the same example in a way that my house is 50 kilometers north from the market, then I specified the distance as well as the direction. That means that quantity becomes a vector quantity. Okay. So when you specify the direction with the magnitude of the quantity, then that quantity becomes a vector quantity. Now, how do you represent this vector quantity? We represent this using a line segment. For example, if suppose this is my vector A, B, and my direction is from A to B. That means A is my starting point and B is my end point. Okay, and suppose I specify the magnitude as 10 meters. So my vector is AB. Now, what is the magnitude of this vector? The magnitude of this vector is 10 meters. What is the direction of this vector? The direction of a vector is always given by the arrowhead. Okay, this is a arrowhead. So, the arrowhead always gives the direction of the vector. Now, how do you write a vector? AB, and we write an arrow on the top. So, this is my vector. This is how you write a vector. Now, if I only want to write the magnitude, I will write mod of vector AB. Now, this mod of vector AB gives the magnitude. But if I only write AB like this is a complete vector which has magnitude as well as direction. Magnitude as well as direction. Now, in this vector, we have different types. Let's start with the first vector. The first vector is zero vector. Now, from the name, you can say that zero vector means when it has zero magnitude as well as no direction. Okay, that means this point will be a zero vector because it has same starting point and same end point. Okay, and zero vector means no magnitude and no direction. Okay, so what is the zero vector? When the starting point and the end point of the vector is same, then that vector is called a zero vector. And this zero vector, it has no magnitude and no direction. Now next is my equal vector. What is equal vector? Suppose I have one vector AB and the second vector CD. Suppose I say the magnitude of vector AB is 5 and the magnitude of vector CD is also 5. Also, they have the same direction. That means my vector AB is equal to vector CD because they have same magnitude as well as same direction. Now, the third type of vector is negative vector. What is the difference between negative vector and equal vector? See, in negative vector, the magnitude of both the vectors will be same like equal vector. The difference is only the direction. If I say AB is my vector which has magnitude 5, CD is my another vector which has magnitude 5. Now, they have same magnitude. That means mod of AB is equal to mod of CD. But AB is not equal to CD. Why? Because the direction of AB is from A to B, but direction of CD will be from D to C. That is why they are called opposite vectors. Opposite vectors or negative vectors because their direction is opposite. Now, if I want to make both these vectors equal, I can write AB is equal to CD, but with a negative sign. Due to this reason, they are called negative vectors because they are same in magnitude, right? They are same in magnitude. They are equal in magnitude. The only difference is the direction. Direction is opposite. One is going from A to B, second is going from D to C. So if you want to make these two vectors equal, just put a negative sign on this side or on that side. And then these two vectors become equal. So these were my 3 types of vectors. Let's go to the next topic. Okay, let's start with the next topic. Now, after we studied the basic definition of vector and different types of vectors, next step is to understand how to do operations on vectors. That means, how can we add 2 vectors or subtract 2 vectors or multiply vectors? Let's start with the first operation, which is the resultant of vectors, or you can say addition of vectors. Now, to find the resultant of any 2 vectors, we have 2 methods. The first method is called triangle method, and the second method is called parallelogram method. Okay, so using these 2 methods, triangle method and parallelogram method, we will add 2 or more than 2 vectors. Let's see. Okay, let's start with the first method. The first method is triangle method. Now suppose if you have a vector A and you have a vector B. I want to find the resultant of vector A and B. That means I want to add these 2 vectors. First step is to join vector A with vector B. Suppose I join this end of vector A to this end of vector B. Let's join. This is my vector A, this is my vector B. Now, as the name says, triangle method. Complete the triangle. Complete this triangle. Now, look at the direction of A and B. They are going in the clockwise direction, right? So, my resultant vector will be in the opposite direction. See, vector A and B, they are going in the clockwise direction. So, the resultant vector, which is the third side of the triangle, will be in the opposite direction. And magnitude of the resultant vector will be A plus B. Let's take one more example. Suppose another example says this is my vector A and this is my vector B. Again, I want to find the resultant of these two vectors. That means I need to add these two vectors. So, join this end and this end. Let's join. This is my A, this is my B. Now, complete the triangle. So, the third side of the triangle will give me the resultant of vector A and B. Okay, that means the third side will be A plus B. Now, how will you decide the direction of A plus B? Will it go upward or will it go downward? Again, look at the direction of A and B. It is going anti-clockwise, right? Look, it is going anti-clockwise. That means in this direction. So, the direction of the resultant vector will be opposite to this direction. If it is going anti-clockwise, A plus B will be clockwise. So, this is my resultant vectors. Like this, if you are given any two vectors, just you have to think, how will you join the two vectors, join the two ends, and the third side will give the resultant. One more example. Okay, third example. In this example, you can see this is my vector A with direction like this. This is my vector B. Okay, direction like this. Now, find the resultant of these two vectors A and B. How will you join? If you join this end and this end, let's try. This is A, this is B. See, both the directions are going inward. So you cannot join like this because they should be going in the same direction. If this is A, direction of B should be like this. That means you cannot join this end to this end. So how will I join my A and B? Now suppose I take the other end of vector A. I join this end of vector A to this end of vector B. Let's try. This is my vector A. This is my vector B. Yes, now you can find the resultant. See, they follow the same direction. If this is going inward, this is going outward. So that means they are going in the clockwise direction. Now you can find the resultant. Resultant will be A plus B. Now what will be the direction? Like I said, the resultant will be opposite direction. So if the direction of A and B clockwise is in the clockwise direction, A plus B will be anti-clockwise. That means this is my resultant of vector A and B. So this was my first method, triangle method. What is triangle method? You are given two vectors which behave as the two sides of a triangle. The third side of the triangle will be the resultant of these two vectors. Now, let's go to the second method. Now, after the triangle method, the second method is parallelogram method. Now, how are you going to use parallelogram method to find the resultant of any two vectors? Look at the example. This is my vector A. Suppose this is my vector B. Now, I will not use triangle method. I want to use the second method, which is parallelogram method. Okay. So, I will join this end and this end together. This is my A. This is my B. Now see, both are going in the outward direction because I joined this end and this end together. So, like the name says, parallelogram, you have to make a parallelogram first. These are two sides of a parallelogram make the two other sides. This becomes my parallelogram. Now the diagonal of this parallelogram will give you the resultant. So that means this vector is my A plus B. So this will be the resultant of A and B. One more example I want to show you. Let's try one more example. Suppose this is my vector A and this is my vector B. Again, join these two sides, these two ends, A and B. Complete the parallelogram. Now, the diagonal of this parallelogram, which is this, will give you the resultant of A and B. So like this, if two vectors are given, you can find the sum. You can add these two vectors and the sum of these two vectors are called resultant of vector A and B. So I have two methods, triangle and parallelogram. So using these two methods, I can find the resultant of any two given vectors. So in today's topic, we learn about what is a vector. A vector is a quantity which has both magnitude as well as direction. Now, we have three types of vectors. First is zero vector. Zero vector means which does not have any magnitude and does not have any direction. Second type is equal vector. When you are given two vectors and the magnitude as well as the direction of both the vectors are same. That means those two vectors are equal. The last vector was negative or opposite vectors. As the name says, from the name you can say, like this is an opposite vector because the direction of these two vectors are opposite, but they have same magnitude. And if you want to make those two opposite vectors equal, just put a negative sign and those two opposite vectors will become equal. And in the end, we discussed one operation of vectors, which was addition of vectors, also known as resultant of vectors. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up.